Hello, thank you for joining us on Education Station. I am Joshua Piguero. Thank you for having us. So, right here, sitting next to me is Jasenia Gonzalez. She's the vice president of Azul Blue. And she's someone that I met over the years in several stories. I think the first time we connected was with Dads in Schools. It's a wonderful organization that was started by Pastor Troy, who we're going to have on in the new year. So let's start with Jasenia. Tell us a little bit about Azul Blue and some of the work y'all all do.
So Azul Blue started back in 2011, 2014. It became a 501c3. It began because there was a need in our Hispanic community. There wasn't a lot of help out there for our Spanish-speaking community. We are a nonprofit that helps by providing services such as we have Max Soccer Camp. We offer it in spring, in the fall. If families cannot afford to pay for it, we have grant sponsors that help with that. We have a women's breakfast. We have Blue Kids, which is for the little ones, where they come and they socialize. We have also advocacy conferences, medical conferences, where we have medical personnel that come. We have specialists. At the end of the year, we have what we call the Blue Gala, which is a big celebration where our kiddos perform.
And did you just have that recently too?
That was just done in December. And the reason why we hold it is because, as many know, if you are a special needs parent like how I am, many of us fear judgment. Because many times when you go out, you get the looks, you get the comments, and that is the time where our kids are free to be who they are. And they get to be happy, they get to perform, they get to have fun, they get presents, they get time with Santa, they get to see the Grinch. Parents get to see their kids perform, to their best of their abilities. It's a no judgment free zone for them, and it's just an amazing opportunity to be able to see your child to be themselves in that moment, So because of that need in that community, Azul Blue came. So we have several things that Azul Blue does. We also have a monthly parent guide that we offer for free, and in that monthly parent guide, we give the parents the information that is available throughout our Silver State, from advocates that are available, other organizations, for example, like FEE, Milagros Escondidos. There are also, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Lord Jesus, I can't think at the moment. But it's filled with also attorneys. If, for example, a parent has to go to the point of due process, which is when they have disagreements with the school. And that's free, and it's every month if they would like to do that. And if they are interested in reaching out and if they want to, they can contact us at 702-955-4415. We are on Facebook. They can also reach us if they like on there, send us a message if they would like to take advantage of those parent guides. Like I mentioned, again, they are free. We welcome everybody because to me, information is key. Early intervention, also services. We give that information to them as well of providers as well, because it's important to know who is out there to help. Because parents don't know, because again, language barriers. And who better out there than Dr. Beasley? She's one of the amazing people that are out there at the Grant a Gift Autism Foundation, along with Dr. Gaspar, which in reality, we refer everybody, but we really, really love them. We have a great relationship with them. But again, if they are interested, we're here to help.
When you speak with parents that go to Azul Blue, what are some of the biggest concerns that they have?
Unfortunately, a lot of violations in their child's education, their IEPs. You hear a lot about abuse. There's a lot of abuse that's happening, and it happens especially with children who are nonverbal. And these are children who cannot communicate. These are children that use communication devices, PEX devices, which are little books with pictures that they use to communicate. And at times, many of these families, again, like I mentioned, there are language barriers. And so these families can't communicate, especially with the school, hey, this is what's happening. And they can't say, hey, how can I help my child? Or they face retaliation from the school when they do get to that point. Or at times they say, hey, I would like to see the video footage. And the school says, no, we can't. Well, the truth is that a video is part of that child's academic record. So per FERPA law, a parent is entitled to view that record. They are. If they request it in writing, they are entitled to view that. But unfortunately, a lot of schools tend to kind of put that barrier, that wall, and not let a parent be entitled to view that. Or they usually hear the cameras aren't working. And I know that me for a fact, it's not true because I have been one of those parents who have gone over that barrier, and I have seen video footage of when it's happened to my child. And I'm not saying that all the schools are bad. There are some amazing teachers out there that help our kids. It's just there are a few bad apples out there, unfortunately, who really could use a lot more training, a lot more help. But unfortunately, there is a lot of abuse. I am also part of the Special Education Advisory Committee, and I see the numbers. And we are in the thousands compared to every other part in Northern Nevada.
And I know we're going to get into that a little bit later and talk about that. But so you're telling me when most of the concerns of parents that go to Azul Blue has to do with some sort of abuse, and this is when your organization is able to help set them up with an attorney or give them guidance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually when that kind of thing happens, and it's unfortunate because they will tell us. They'll show us the pictures. Sometimes the children, they will, in the best of their abilities, send us the audio of what happened. They'll tell us, and it's heartbreaking. And we do have an attorney when it gets to that point who we say, hey, this happened. Can you help? And depending on, is it something substantial, and I'm not saying that it's not, but if there's enough evidence to be able to back that case up, then the attorney will take that case on, which is why I always tell a parent, hey, make sure that you're notating everything. Make sure you have a timeline so that if the attorney has questions and can take on the case, you already have everything ready for them. And whether it's our attorney in Azul Blue or any, just in general, because it helps. It really does.
All right. So next, we're going to come back and we're going to talk with Yesenia Gonzalez about this whole trend where now charter schools are seeing an increase in special education student enrollment. So that'll be next. Welcome back to Education Station. I'm Joshua Peguero, and I'm joined by Yesenia Gonzalez, the Vice President of Azul Blue. So we first discussed what the organization does and how they help parents who may have questions regarding some sort of abuse, especially because their kid might be autistic and nonverbal, which we've seen, unfortunately, a lot of here in Southern Nevada. But one of the things I wanted to talk to Yesenia Gonzalez about, because just knowing her and the advocacy and all the work that she's done over the last few years, is special education in charter schools. Now, we're seeing state numbers that were released last week by the State Public Charter School Authority shows that charter schools are now the second largest system in Nevada. So it's CCSD, fifth largest in the country, and then Washoe, and then charter schools, and then Washoe County. So charter school enrollment as a whole has taken over Washoe County. One of the things that I saw in the data is in particular when it comes to special education. What have you heard in your line of work in terms of charter schools and special education? Are they offering a superior, choice for parents, or is it just something different, or is there like a shift just happening in general especially in the Hispanic Latino community here?
So, in regarding to charter schools, Clark County has also charter schools. The Clark County School District has also their charter schools. What people don't, some people don't know is that there are 3 global levels when it comes to autism. Global level 1, 2, and 3. 3 is the most severe. 1, not. Depending on where your child falls in, some charter schools may not be able to accommodate your child. That being said, it doesn't mean that charter schools are bad. It just depends if that charter school can accommodate your child based on that disability. Unfortunately, not all of them can if you have one with a level 3. They may not be able to provide them with a one-to-one aid. We have heard that those who have a level 1, for example, like my child, would flourish in a charter school. They would do much, much better with a charter school versus a public, for example, Clark County charter school, whereas they kind of all just put them all in one room. In a Clark County school, and I'm going to use as an example, regular school, they have intermediate autism programs, and they're either in a self-contained, and they're all in one classroom, and there's a lot of kids in there, and it's very overwhelming. So that's kind of where I'm getting at, where kids flourish. They do much better with a child that's a level 1 in a charter. It's a lot more dedicated. For someone who's a level 1, maybe a level 2 would probably do better. And now I may be wrong. There could be some charter schools out there who have had an amazing support out there. But again, a parent has to do so much research out there to see if that charter school has what their child needs. But it is a lot of work. But unfortunately, from a lot of the families, the feedback that we've gotten is that it's not been good for that level for that child. But for a global level 1, it's been good. It's been great. We are very supportive of being a school choice. But again, it just depends on where your child falls on, and depending on what their disability is, especially if they're dyslexic, if they have a learning impairment, if they have ADHD. Again, it just depends on what their special education falls on.
So talk about that a little bit, because we're seeing an increase in, also the numbers show more Hispanic families and Black families are choosing, and Asian families are choosing charter schools over traditional CCSD schools. Now, the majority, I think half of CCSD's total population is Latino, Hispanic. That's what I identify as. And now you're seeing a lot of kids peeling off, families moving them to charter schools. When you talk to families in Azul Blue, do they tell you that, they're having better experience at a charter school, or is it just they're so upset with the way CCSD was run and their experience with CCSD that they were like, you know what, I'm just going to pull them out. I don't care what happens in charter school.
So, for example, a lot of, unfortunately, the experiences, they're pulling them because of the experiences in the Clark County School District. That's why they're pulling them. They have not been pleasant experiences. So they're pulling them because they want a better experience for their child. It's been a traumatic experience. So they're pulling them to put them in a better school setting where their child is going to be happier. But understand that even though they're pulling them, they're still having to pick up the broken pieces. The schools are not as out of ratio as they are in a Clark County School District school setting. Because, if you were to go into a classroom, for example, like how I'm a school volunteer, you see how those classrooms are packed. They are packed. And many times that's very overwhelming for a special needs child. And a charter school, it's a different number setting. I think it's better for a child. But like I mentioned, it just depends on where the child's needs are on their IEP,
Do you think that, just given the work that you do and this increase, do you think it's good that now we're getting an increase in the number of charter school options in Southern Nevada, in terms of maybe, with more competition, right, for kids, right, with more charter schools, it forces CCSD to kind of course correct and be like, you know what? We can't afford to keep losing students because it's going to start affecting our budget. It's going to start affecting how many teachers we have. So do you think it's better overall, the amount of options?
I think a parent should have a right in their child's education. They should be able to say, hey, I have an option. If this isn't working out, then I should be able to put my child where they're going to do better. Especially if their child is being abused, then that's absolutely not where they belong. They deserve to have a happier environment because the school district is supposed to provide a safe learning environment. It's in the NRS, and if it's not being provided, then the parent has a right to pull them. Absolutely.
All right. So next, we're going to talk with Jasenia, something that she's been very passionate about. She even spoke at the Nevada legislature. When was it? 2021, right? Whenever you gave the public comment in regards to the cameras inside classrooms. What year was that?
Originally, it was 2019.
2019. Sorry.
To 2021. So I got involved in 2019.
2019. She's been involved with helping shape policy in the state, and so we're going to talk to her about that and just some room for improvement here, and also some startling numbers on kids that have been unfortunately abused by their teachers here. So we're going to be back and we're going to talk more about that particular subject. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joshua Peguero. This is Education Station, and I'm joined by Jasenia Gonzalez, Vice President of Azul Blue. And we're going to talk about another topic that she's been very passionate about, and that's helping to reshape state policy when it comes to special education and kids who are autistic and have autism. In 2019, as I mentioned earlier, and in 2021, she testified at the state legislature. They meet every 2 years here in Nevada about getting cameras in classrooms, in particular CCSD. Now, it didn't work out. CCSD does not have cameras inside special education classrooms. You'll see them on the hallways. But, I want to ask you a little bit about what drove you to take up that position and say that we need cameras in CCSD classrooms. I know it was a personal experience, a personal story.
So my child was coming home with bruises on his arms, bruises on his ribs. My child was nonverbal, but became verbal and was a chatterbox. And his behaviors just changed. He didn't want to go to his classroom. He was terrified. He would try to elope, run, which is a very common characteristic with our kids who are autistic. And we couldn't figure out why it was such a drastic behavior. He would come home soiled, and he was potty trained. This was something that it wasn't like my son. And so one day he tells us that his teacher, bent his fingers back. And I was like, what? And he tells us, yes, that's what happened. And then I come and I pick him up, and he was soiled. They had him sitting in the front office, and he was soiled. And I was like, why? So then he tells us that his teacher wouldn't let him go to the bathroom. So at that 2019, I think it was 2019 or 2021 legislative session, I played the audio of my son testifying, saying that his teacher would not let him go to the restroom. And to me, that was such an inhumane act for someone to take advantage of a special needs child, to not let them go to the restroom. He was the only verbal child in that classroom. And he was able to tell us that the kids in the classroom were being abused by his teacher. And then finally, we caught the teacher grabbing my child where the bruises were. And I have very small hands, and her hands were huge. So from there, I was just enraged, and I said something has to change, because if my son hadn't said anything, we would have never known what was going on. And so I just started to kind of get more involved in legislation and be a voice, because not everyone is fortunate to have a verbal child. And that's why I said that we need to give our children a voice, be a voice for the voiceless, because it's tragic what's happening. You're supposed to be able to leave your child behind these closed doors and kind of have that sense of peace of mind that they're going to be okay. But these people who I mentioned, it's supposed to be a safe learning environment, they're abusing our kids. And these are children who cannot speak for themselves, and they are reverting to being nonverbal. They are becoming aggressive, and it's not because they want to hurt someone. It's because someone behind those closed doors is hurting them, and that's how they're trying to communicate that something is happening. Something happened, and now we are the ones picking up those broken pieces. Until this day, I'm still dealing with that. He's 16, and I'm still dealing with that, and he was 5 years old at the time. Yeah, 5 years old at the time, So it has a long effect, And Northern Nevada has the cameras. We don't. So the thing that you hear is that it's a violation of privacy. Not really. To me, it's if you have a camera, it kind of tells both sides to a story, whether innocent or not. It would give a voice to the teacher. It would give a voice to the students. It would give peace of mind. When we were in legislation, what it was basically saying is that, we, the parents, wouldn't have access to it. If something happens, the principal or whoever would be the administrator at the time would be able to access that video, play it, and see what happened. We wouldn't be able to just chime in whenever we want. It would just, it would be part of the academic record, as I mentioned, because, we are entitled to that. If something happens, we just say, hey, so-and-so incident happened at so-and-so time. Can we look at it? And let's just say if there's a false accusation of abuse, then we can clear someone of accusations of that as well. Or if someone's child is falsely accused of something, then again, it tells a story.
Now, with your child, oftentimes what I see in the news side is that some of these teachers that get accused of or get arrested and even charged, well, sometimes get arrested for hitting a nonverbal autistic child or a special needs child, that oftentimes prosecutors don't pursue it and it'll get dropped, right? Because what they'll say is that they use restraint. Like that's what teachers say, oh, I'm entitled to, special education teachers say, I'm entitled to some sort of use of restraint. And when it happened to your child, do you know if the teacher was ever charged or anything like that?
No. They actually, what they did was they removed her. So she was removed from that school, and I don't know where she went. But even though if a teacher is allowed to use a restraint, there are certain restraints that are not allowed. So there are chemical restraints, there are physical restraints. There are different types of restraints. And even if, let's say, a officer comes in and handcuffs a child, you still would be able to see how everything happened, which is now why, as of the latest legislation, Senate Bill 380 was just passed, which now gives peace officers that proper training on how to interact with an individual that has disabilities. Thank God for that bill that just passed, because now all peace officers now have that training.
Where do you think CC, because there have been thousands of these reports of children, special needs children, being abused by their teachers. But what can CCSD do? And with the amount of work that you've done, what can they do to address this?
So to me, I think these teachers just need way more training. If a teacher is just doing an ARL program, it's a 3-year.
And to describe people what that means, ARL.
I can't remember off the top of my head what ARL, but they have 3 years to complete this program. And if they don't finish it, then they can't continue doing their special education training. So basically, they're not fully certified. They're not. It baffles me that they have money for other things, but not to get teachers the full qualifications. So these teachers just need a lot more training is what they need. It's a lot more training. It's not just, I think it's more hands-on training, not just doing some online training. Because I've heard these teachers say that some of them just do an online course. I think it's more of they need more of that hands-on, in-person. I think it would be more of a yearly thing. And maybe I'm ignorant, maybe I'm wrong. but I think maybe they should do something more of a yearly thing. And
Okay. Well, we're going to leave it there. More training is what some of these teachers need. And we thank you, Yesenia Gonzalez, for coming on, the Vice President of Azul Blue. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done within that special education area. And we really appreciate it. All right, we're going to end the show here. Thank you for all those who tuned in.